All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. If you're with us tonight, I need you to do two things. Number one, put some flames in the chat. Number two, let us know where you're listening in from. All right, so guys, today's actually going to be very, very interesting. In fact, before I even talk about it, I want to bring Sean on because I think Sean has some very interesting things that he wants to say with regards to that. Sean,
Thank you.
phenomenal morning.
Phenomenal morning. Phenomenal morning. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Listen, we got inundated with so much mail, so many people writing in. They were actually texting us and emailing us and tagging us while we were on the call last Saturday. Listen, we had a phenomenal guest. If you missed it, you need to go back and look at it, right? You really need to go back and look at it, but it's okay because we actually brought her back. So, back by popular demand, right? Back by popular demand. Everybody's talking about float therapy. What is float therapy? And how do I, get a place to go and experience this saline? The words were actually the fountain of youth, right? The fountain of youth. So it's very, very important. I just want to impress upon you the importance of this work that we are doing in the field of leadership. My thing is personal branding, but in order for you to have a personal brand, you want to think about the quality and the state of that personal brand. Is it healthy? Is it well? And we talk about business all of the time. But the same thing applies, the same questions apply. Are the people thriving? And it starts with the leader. Are you thriving in your business? With all of the stress in such a complex and, dare I even say, volatile environment, such as business and the post pandemic reality, so many changes have gone on in the past 2 years that a lot of times we just run, right? We just run through it, deal with it, and develop this duck feather response. But realistically, on a deeper level, we're being impacted by it, right? We're being impacted by it. You can't help but to be impacted by the environment in which you're surrounded. And then when you brush it off and don't attend to it, what happens is it compounds like interest. It compounds like interest, and then it negatively impacts you. It negatively impacts you. And a lot of people, I can remember being in organizations and people being carted out on stretchers in an organization. High performing executives, high performing people who did not show a sign of trauma, dis-ease, or any problem until it became acute. Right. So it was very enlightening last week, very informative, very powerful. And after the break, we're gonna bring Dr. Flowers back out. But I just want to read something to you real quick. I'm a voracious reader, and I was reading this morning on strategic leadership. I'm going to read a quote to you later about something else, but I want to open up with this. This is called Becoming a Strategic Leader, Your Role in Your Organization's Enduring Success. And it's from Robert L. Hughes. And he says that change has become so fast and pervasive that it has an impact on virtually every organization everywhere and everyone in them. Which means if you're a part of an organization, or you're leading an organization, or you're a CEO, this means you. If you're a part of a team, if you're on the front line or the back, if you're on the back end front line influencer, you are impacted by change. And he goes on to say, and appropriate to our times, the acronym has been given to this condition. So an acronym has been created to describe the conditions in which we execute in business. And that's VUCA. VUCA. As imagined by the U.S. Army War College and popularized by Bob Johansen in Leaders Make the Future, 2012, VUCA describes a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Correspondingly, today's strategic leaders must be able to think, act, and influence in that environment. So not only do you have to be a high performer as you were in pre-pandemic times and dealing like before the depression, before the last they say we're in a recession now. What is your elasticity? What is your ability to perform to a super high level in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment? In our field, in this industry, we see a lot of people losing heart. A lot of people are losing heart. A lot of people are checking out because they're not successful and they don't know how to adapt. And that plasticity and that elasticity is stretched as well as stressed. So that's just it. I just wanted to open up with that quote. That will be the content that we'll be addressing today: executive wellness and organizational health, and then some sub chapters, some sub content, some very pertinent areas to your success as a leader and how to heighten them, such as employee retention and acquisition. So yeah, Junior, I didn't mean to get super deep, super early, but I just wanted to put that out there and let everybody know what to look forward to, why we're here, and what an impact that Dr. Donat Flowers had on the Breakfast with the Brand last week.
That's right, Sean. I already know. I had a feeling that you would go this deep so early, but I can only imagine what's about to come. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be going to a short break. This is Breakfast with the Brand. We'll be back very shortly.
CSA, clarify, simplify, and amplify. Clarify, be clear about what you want. Clear about your vision, clear about your goals, clear about the impact, clear about the legacy. How many generations do you want this business to go on? And then simplify. So you think big, you expand, then you contract. Think big, and then you think small and focus on the one thing. And then when you lock on it, you set it on fire, brother. Make them sick of you. Listen, the more people unsubscribe from your stuff, the better. The wrong ones take a walk. The right ones show themselves in.
Right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand. If you're tuned in live, go ahead, put those flames in the chat. We're about to get started. Sean, are you ready?
I was born that way, brother. Definitely, definitely. Shout out to everybody on the call. We are going to bring out our phenomenal guest. Put some flames in the chat and give her a welcome back to the Breakfast with the Brand, Dr. Flowers. Phenomenal morning.
Phenomenal morning. Good morning.
Yes,
Morning.
man. You caused quite a stir
Yeah.
last week. You caused quite a stir last week. We got a lot of emails, a lot of good responses to the idea of executive wellness, and how that incorporates within the organization and leadership. Right, as an individual, I read a quote on strategic leadership and how impactful the current volatile world that we're in, the complexities, the uncertainty, the change, right? How that has conditioned the environment to be extra stressful, as if that was even possible, right? And I know we talked about float therapy, we talked about hydrotherapy, we talked about a lot of different things. And it was very pertinent that we brought you back out and, just say hello to the people.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you for what you shared earlier. As I was listening to you backstage, I actually thought back to my residency days. And I remember rounding in the ICU one day, and there was one of my attendings who, he didn't look good to me. And there's a culture, especially in medicine, where you plug on, you put one foot in front of the other, and you keep going. But the person that I am, I asked him, "Hey, are you doing okay?" Um, he was sweating, right, which is a classic sign of a heart attack. And he says, "Okay, I think I'm infarcting, meaning I think I'm having a heart attack, but I'm going to finish my rounds before I go to the ER." So
Mm.
we're in the hospital, we're rounding. He knows what's happening, but he's so, and I'm going to use the word in air quotes, dedicated to his work, that he puts himself to the side, right? Which means that if he doesn't take care of himself and he actually infarcts and has a full cardiac arrest that we cannot resuscitate him from, he won't be available tomorrow to rounds, or the next day, the next week, the month, next month or year, right? And that was really the beginning of my thought on, we as professionals have to take better care of ourselves, and we have to prioritize ourselves, which is really prioritizing our purpose, right? Because if we're not okay, we can't forge forward and do whatever it is that we're purposed and called to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I mean, you are sounding the war drum, right? Sounding the war drum. I have been personally and professionally extremely vigilant. As soon as I identified my purpose, I realized that I had to be in top physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health in order to perform that purpose. Just it was not e- it was it's a no-brainer. But sometimes we try to think about time management, prioritization, and so for instance, when faced with an extremely hard course, as far as coursework in college, one term, I can remember being so inundated, building my business, working a full time gig and consulting at the same time, and having this introduction to new and different, challenging in a different way coursework that would have me. It would require me to go in on reading a lot of text, a lot of anecdotes, a lot of peer reviewed articles, that I actually put my work out to the side. Right, I actually put my work out to the side. I made a conscious decision, and I said, okay, for the next two terms, I'm just gonna put this to the side kind of and run through it, and it had an impact. I noticed it and I had to reincorporate it back. So in a situation like that, let's just put this out there. In a situation like that, where an entrepreneur who may still have a job, and may still be in school or have family and have those family values, the educational values, sometimes there's value overlap or
Right.
value conflict.
Mhm.
And when it comes to time management and balance, I used to do balance coaching. So balancing all of those different aspects of a person's life, they call it the 8 life areas, right? What role does health and wellness play in that dynamic? Number one, and number two, how does a person actually make sense of all of that?
Yeah. So I'm really glad you asked that question. So balance is best achieved through integration,
Mhm.
right? So if I have 10 different things that I'm trying to balance, it's really hard to juggle 10 different things. But if you can imagine we're at a circus and there's a balancing act, right? Which is what our lives look like sometimes. Imagine instead of balancing balls, you're balancing circular rings, right? And at different intervals, those rings will interlock, right? And then we're moving those rings, right? Because we are not we're not islands, right? We don't do one thing and then do the next thing. It's not like we breathe at one point and then we stop breathing and then we see and then we stop seeing and then we hear. All of those things are working in conjunction. Now, if the room is dark, our hearing is heightened, right? Because we can't see, so our senses are heightened. So at some point, one aspect of our lives will have to come to the forefront. You might have a season where you're focusing on your health. You'll have a season where you're focusing on the business and a season where you're focusing on your family. Well, seasons we think of as quarterly: winter, summer, spring, fall, 3 months. It seems like a long time. But how about we break it down into morning, afternoon, evening, right? A season could be within a day.
That's right.
I have to block out time for my health from this time to this time. I have to block out time for the family from this time to this time.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm
Block out
sorry.
time.
Dr. Flowers, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to pass over fire, right? I don't want to pass over really good fire, right? Really good pertinent topics. I want everybody to understand what she just did, right? She just took the seasons and made them daily. And she also talked about balance being integration and balancing your life like rings in a circus. And I don't know if you've ever been to the circus and saw what she's talking about with the rings, but I have, where they all become one, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that and kind of point that out and highlight that please do not let this pass you by because she's saying it, in one tone or in one way. I want you guys to really understand the power in what you just said and do yourself and your community and your followers a favor and share this to your community right now. Take a moment and just press share on this post or on this call, on this podcast, so that your network can get some of this because what she just said can positively save lives. Please go right ahead. I'm sorry, I just had to stop you for a moment, please.
No, no, that's fine. So what we really teach, what we do is we talk about really creating a foundation. The foundation is health. If you're not healthy, you cannot be wealthy, right? I'm gonna say that again for emphasis. If
Please.
you're not healthy, you cannot be wealthy. If you're not healthy, you're not optimal. So you can't really perform at your best to actually generate to create the impact and generate the revenue that you want to create. If you're not healthy, you may not even be able to go to work. And if you're not healthy, you might be spending the wealth that you have amassed now spending it to get healthy. So the foundation truly is health, making sure that our bodies, our minds, our spirits are doing well. So that's where we start. And then we create a system around that. So I'll just give a quick sneak peek into what the conference will be about. We will literally have our planners out and we will be writing in, penciling in our quarterly doctor's appointments, our float time, if that's your thing, cryotherapy, or your whatever your relaxed time is, your massage therapy, etc. That goes on the calendar. We're going to schedule in your time with your family. Is it going to be a weekly date night, a monthly date night? I would not do date night any less than a month, once a month, preferably more, but at least once a month. We're going to put in our fitness, put in our spiritual practices, and then we plan our business. Typically, we do it the other way around, right? Okay, I got to do this, meet this quarterly goal. I want to hit, this projection and this timeline and this marketing strategy and this launch and this push. And we're nowhere on the plan. So we start with us first and then we build.
I love what you're saying. So I had to write this down, right? I hope everybody else did. We gotta sometimes think about what we think about and then practice the right way to learn.
Right.
Sometimes we just hear things. We're so inundated with content that we treat all content equal. And we just hear it like a buzz, like and we just, let everything pass us by or go through our ears. It's like we don't really register. But when I tell people to write something down, that's because I want to anchor it or draw attention to it. Yeah, Dr. Flowers said, spending your health to get wealthy, then spending your wealth to get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you didn't let that pass you by. And then something you said, I love date night, and I've been using massage therapy for probably 8 years, no less than once, usually twice a month, because it's serious. It's really serious. And if you're in this space where you're sitting a lot, you're doing this, right? It's very important that you move. Very, very important that you move. If you're in the high-end stressful environment where you're flying and you're speaking constantly in different places and coming around different people and sometimes being inside of a contagion chamber and go playing with a lot of different people, it's very important that you attend to your health. And I was also reading something I'm gonna read from that a little bit later, where your environment can change your internal state.
Absolutely.
And then your internal state can change your environment.
Absolutely.
And it compounds negatively until that acute situation happens that you were talking about with the gentleman who was doing rounds and that I spoke to before we came on about the people being actually escorted medically off of the site, right? And you also brought a memory up. So I'm younger. I'm still young. I was younger.
Yeah.
And I was putting together my first pie chart for my personal life, personal and professional development. So I had just kind of came to the realization that I needed this to integrate this into my life, and it was going to be good for me to plan my life and plan my days. So I put together this pie chart, and I made slices. So I had morning, noon, afternoon, morning, afternoon, evening, night, and I had all 12 hours accounted for. I was so proud of myself. And I told my wife, I said, come look at this. I'm going to work out during this time. I'm going to read during this time. I'm going to go to school during this time. I'm going to eat during this time. I'm going to rest during this time. I'm going to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But when I said rest, I said active rest. So I'm going through this pie chart, noon and morning and afternoon. So from 12 to 12 and then from 12 to 12. And she said, that's great, Sean. I'm proud of you. That's really great.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear sleep.
Right.
I had gone through the entire 24-hour cycle and completely removed sleep as if I didn't need it. And we spoke before, I think it was the Breakfast with the Brand before this one, about the importance of sleep, rest, rejuvenation, so you can recalibrate.
Right.
And the book that I was about to refer to is the Emotional Intelligence Collection and Happiness. And they talked about three main things in here to be happy. And number one was a meaningful vision of the future. A meaningful vision of the future, a sense of purpose. Number two, a sense of purpose. And number three, great relationships. Great relationships. And I know when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about employee engagement, acquisition, and retention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because organizations are failing. And sometimes it's because organizations are failing their people.
Absolutely.
Sometimes a boss will feel like their people are failing them, but sometimes it's the organization failing the people. But listen to this. And it's the first chapter, being happy at work matters. A lot of times we don't speak to or think about the state that we're in qualitatively. We only think quantitatively. How much money did I make? How many clients did I close? How many closing calls do I have? Where's the money at? We don't think qualitatively. And what this book says is we know that people join an organization and leave a boss. A dissonant relationship with one's boss is downright painful. So, too, are bad relationships with colleagues. Leaders, managers, and employees have all told us that close, trusting, and supportive relationships are hugely important to their state of mind and their willingness to contribute to a team.
Right.
So, on that note, Dr. Flowers, if you could, from your experience in executive wellness, executive health, organizational health, and individual health, how important is the relationship component? Because I noticed you said date night here, so I just wanted to speak to that for a moment.
Oh my goodness, it's absolutely huge on so many fronts, right? So we'll go into the office first because we spend most of our time at work, right? We are at work for 8 hours. If you're working in the hospital like I did, sometimes 12 hours, right? And then you factor in your commute time. Let's say it's half an hour each way. So it's 13 hours that you're without your family. So if you're at work for 8, 10, 12 hours, it's important that you like the people that you're working with. It's important that you have healthy relationships, even if you don't necessarily like them, that there are boundaries that are there that make it a safe environment. We'll start there. And also important to have fun camaraderie. So, one of the things that we talk about in the workshop is the culture that you have at your office. If you have a culture that is engaging, that factors in, particularly now, the 5 different generations that are in the workforce.
Mm,
That creates a healthy communication pool, a healthy communication style where different people can voice their opinions, voice their positive feedback, and voice their concerns, their constructive feedback. That's a good environment to work in. I think for us as entrepreneurs, business leaders, business owners, one of the gifts that a parting employee can give is feedback. Why did you leave? What could we have done to make your time better? Right. So that's very important. And because we spend so much time at work, it's really important that we spend quality time at home during the quantity of time that we're home.
very good. Very good. Very good. There's a lot of scientific evidence that points to dopamine, the chemical response to feeling good,
Mhm.
and the bursts of dopamine in the body when you hug your children,
Mm.
when you kiss your spouse, when you touch hands. Intimacy without being intimate, right?
Mhm.
The small things. The small things have a compound effect, which affects, so the quality piece affects and has a direct impact on the quantitative piece. So we talk about small skills in organizations or soft skills in organizations such as relationship building, affect, attitude, being communicative, not holding on to emotions, things of that nature, and how if you don't have the soft skills, your hard skills will be negatively impacted.
Mhm.
So, what I want to impress upon the entrepreneurs listening and the business owners listening is that the soft. I'm reading a book as well. I always read multiple books at the same time. I'm reading a book called CEO Excellence by McKinsey Group. 3 senior partners in McKinsey, CEO excellence, highly recommended. And they said to treat the CEOs who are successful have patterns. And one of those patterns is treating the soft stuff like the hard stuff. And they actually say that the soft stuff is the hard stuff. So, hard stuff being sales, hard stuff being closing deals, hard stuff being client acquisition, client retention. Soft stuff is like culture, people, relationships. I do a workshop called CPR, which is culture, people, and revenue. But in order to get to the revenue, you have to go through the culture first and then the people. It doesn't, the money doesn't happen on its own. People don't come by $1 million by mistake, right? $10 million by mistake, $100 million by mistake. It's through the people, and the people are built through the culture. So your job as a leader is to build the culture. But how can you build a culture if you don't feel good? How do you build a culture if you don't feel good, Dr. Flowers?
Absolutely. Well, you will build a culture. It just won't be a culture that is healthy, tolerable, and that people want to stay at, right? So the culture will definitely be there, but it just won't be healthy, right? Because we've all heard it, it starts at the top. So if the top doesn't feel good, the body won't feel good, the culture won't feel good, the people won't feel good. I don't know if you know if you've ever had, let's say, a headache or you've been hangry, right? Have you ever been hangry?
Yes,
Right?
definitely. Definitely.
Imagine a perpetual state of hangriness and you're building a culture within that, right? um the people will feel that. They're going to feel the hanger, and hangry people get angry. Angry people create other angry people, and so there's your culture of anger, right? There's your culture of unpleasant interactions, right? So it's very, very important to keep oneself healthy and to be mindful of the culture that you're trying to create. At the end of the day, we're going to attract who we are, which is why I go back to, how are you doing? What is your health, right? What is your output? Because your output will generate the output of your organization.
I love what you just said. I love what you just said. And so, when you have good, stimulating conversation, one thought layers on the other, right? So, what you just said made me think of your output dictates your income.
I like that.
Yeah, your output dictates your income. Everybody's focused on the last part, the consequence or the result of the first two.
Right.
Correct culture plus people equals revenue. And if you don't have, if you have negative culture, you'll have negative people, and your organization will have negative revenue. And culture is built, or the way the way you feel dictates the way you act, and the way you think many times dictates the way you feel. And you use the word mindful. So I want to bring people's attention to that word. And I want to answer Michelle first because she said meaningful vision of the future, great relationships, and she missed the other one. So the other one was a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose. So a meaningful vision of the future, a sense of purpose, and then phenomenal relationships are what dictate happiness on the job and in life.
Right.
And look at happiness as a qualitative state. But then look at what McKinsey says about treating the hard stuff or the soft stuff as the hard stuff, and then going as far as to say that the soft stuff is the hard stuff. So if you're not happy and you don't feel success, if you don't feel it physically, if you're ill, if you're sick, if you're tired, if you're angry, like Dr. Flowers just said, if you don't feel success, you're going to beget those situations that reflect how you feel.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So two things, right? We attract what we are, right? So I definitely agree with you there. But I want to take a step back and talk about the soft skills. So
Please.
one of the things that we talk about when we're in the talent acquisition stage for a company, right? We do the soft skill test in a variety of ways, or we teach it a few techniques to do it, right? On the higher executive level, you have multiple people interview the candidate, right? Because This person may be one way with you, one way with another person, and one way with a third, right? They're also one way with a suit, a different way with, let's say, the bus driver, or a different way with the waiter, right? So we do a variety of simulations, we'll call them, where we have people out to dinner after you've passed, the first round of interviews. What do you think we're looking for? Just
Probably
curious.
looking for what they eat, how they respond. Oh, it looks like she might have froze. Okay, so put in the chat what you think they're looking for when they observe somebody at work. What does that look like? And when she gets back, we'll bring her back on to answer that. But just take a step back. As an entrepreneur, just take a step back and look at where you're at. Give yourself a grade. Give yourself a grade when it comes to your health and wellness as it relates to your business performance. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Put that in the chat and we'll be right back. Let's grow. All right, all right. Let's go. I'm like, okay, we'll be right back. Let's get it. I think Dr. Flowers is back. Bring Dr. Flowers back out here because she was right in the middle of something powerful, and the algorithms might not have wanted you to give that away. But I wanted to stop real quick and come right back to you. So please give that bit of pertinent information that you're about to give before you froze.
Absolutely, absolutely. So imagine you're with an interviewee, you're out to dinner, right? The waiter comes in and they ordered, I don't know, a steak, medium well, and it's rare. How do they return that steak? Do they return it with grace? Excuse me, I requested medium rare. This is, I don't know, well done. This is burnt. Or are they like, you got this totally completely wrong. How could you? Right?
Very good.
Well, they're being very nice to you, but not necessarily nice to the waiter. So are they nice or are they just putting on a front? See, this is still part of the interview because I'm getting to know who you are. Not who you are with me, but who you are. holistically, right? From a 360 perspective. Okay, we're done with dinner. If it's a business dinner, the company may pay. However, if we get an opportunity to observe them in another setting, are they tipping the waiter, the waitress, right? Or are they writing, a nasty gram on the receipt? These are the soft skills that we're talking about.
That's right. That's right. So let's get to the conference. Let's get to the event,
Yeah.
right? So we're gonna have the event. Listen, guys, tell them where the event is. Tell them what the outcomes are. Tell them what to expect, and tell them why they need to be there, Dr. Flowers.
Absolutely. So the event will be hosted on the campus of Keene University in Union, New Jersey on January 28th, 2023. It's actually going to be a three-part event. So you're going to have an opportunity to hear industry leaders talk about the health and wellness space, talk about talent acquisition, and talk about business planning. In the afternoon, you're actually going to have a hands-on business planning session where we're actually going to talk about how to make a business plan actionable, right? We're going to have breakout sessions. I'm going to be walking the room. There'll be a few facilitators walking the room just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And what the other thing I like about this style is that it's a think tank, right? So
Mm,
you're going to have other people in the incubator of sorts,
come
and
on.
they will be sharing what is working for them. And equally as important, what's not working for them. So that way you don't have to go out and make all the mistakes, right? And then the third portion, which is really important, is going to be a networking component. So you'll get to network with like minded individuals, and you might find the missing piece that you're looking for. We all have that missing piece in our team or in the space that we're in, right? So let's find some new people to collaborate with. You may be in the public sector, you're trying to break into the private sector, right? That might be a connection that's there. You may be looking for an investor. That may be a connection that's there. We're all looking for investors, okay? Um, so you might find that connection there. You may be wanting to write a grant, right? Or you listen, we're going to have people talking about the importance of an MWBE status or an MBE status, if that's something that would be helpful for your organization or not. So there are going to be a lot of pieces coming together to create a more holistic business plan.
Holistic business plan. I love it. I love it. Mr. B, if you can put the coordinates, put down where they can contact Dr. Flowers for more information and to go ahead and get your tickets. Get your tickets because I heard it's going to be phenomenal. And I did hear that some very, very phenomenal speakers were going to be present and co-facilitators and people who work with you to build that out. And I want to lean into what you said because you said a holistic business plan. Dig into that a little bit because I've heard of the business plan, but what do you mean by holistic business plan? What do you mean by that? What is the concept of that?
Got it. So the business plan, as we know it, is typically a lengthy document, 20, 30 pages long, filled with the demographics and filled with the financials, the P&L, the revenue projections, how you're going to build it out, sales and marketing, all of the things related to the business, nothing related to the entrepreneur, right? So there's nothing in there that talks about the health of the entrepreneur. It talks about the projected health of a business, but like we talked about earlier, if the entrepreneur is not healthy, right, the business is not going to be healthy. Imagine you're going into a business meeting, right, and you have a heated argument just before the meeting. Whoever it is that you're talking to will feel that, right? You'll be a little bit distracted thinking about the conversation. What should you have said? What should you have not said? You're going to have an emotional weight that's going to be transferred. Is it inevitable? No. However, there's certain protections that we can take, i.e., regular date nights, right? Get those dopamine levels up and minimize the feeling of he or she doesn't spend time with me, right?
Hmm.
Building that connection and getting your people on your team, right? Because if they feel that you're on their team, they're more apt to be on your team. So really creating that 360 component that's going to make the entrepreneur healthier. We're going to dive into when was your last doctor's appointment? I'm actually sitting at a table where I've recently purchased on some websites. You know, iHerb is a website that I really like. Some supplements. Are you taking your supplements? Are
Mhm.
you drinking your water? To your point, are you exercising? Right. So these are all the things that we'll talk about, because if you are at your best, you're optimized, you can optimize your business.
Very good, very good. So business optimization, performance optimization, and health optimization.
Right.
Very good, very good. I noticed that nobody put any numbers. Okay, Queen A did actually put a 7 in there. Before you left, I asked everybody to put a number in the chat that
Okay.
represents where their health was in
Mm,
relationship to their business results, right? So if you could, if you're comfortable disclosing, go
mhm,
right ahead and do that now. And if you're listening to this at a later time, put it in the chat. Where are you at? Where could you be? Where do you want to be? And I want you to think of the correlations. Think of the correlations. We call it interspatial integration. When you take disciplines from different areas and you integrate them and bring them together. One thing that we spoke about was balance. And when we use the word balance or integration in reference to balance, the word that comes to mind for me is harmony. Harmony, music.
mhm,
And internally, I believe that our bodies are musical. There
mhm,
should be harmony. Like there are sounds. And you know how the blood courses through the veins unless it's carotid arteries and corrosive materials compacting and impacting the flow of blood. It's a huge thing. It's really a huge thing. We hear about it all the time. I am plugged in, I keep my fingers to the pulse of the people. And while specific mindsets continue to lengthen and push the age forward, at the same time, there is an alarming amount of people who prematurely pass away,
mhm,
and especially in specific communities where the options they say are not as present. However, I am not that person who's going to say that options are not possible or present. I'm going to say that a lot of times the wrong decisions are being made. The wrong decisions are being made. I think that we have opportunities where less is more. I think sometimes we overconsume. I think sometimes we consume the wrong things. And it's the same thing in business. When you're over preoccupied with one thing and when you focus on the wrong thing, your business is going to be off. So when you eat the wrong things and you do this a lot of times, you're going to continuously negatively impact. So the one French fry or the one slice of pizza might be a dopamine hit that makes you feel good, and that's fine. We used to call it cheat days in the gym. You'd have a cheat day, right? But what happens if you turn that cheat day into a cheat month or a cheat week or a cheat season or a cheat quarter or a cheat year? It's hard to lead from a place of lack.
mhm,
It's hard to be perceived, control the perception of yourself as a professional if you're out of tune, out of harmony. And I think that it really reflects discipline at the same time. People do judge us based on appearance and qualitatively. How do they look? What are the whites of their eyes white? How does the breath smell? Do they look rested? Are they rushing and putting themselves together? Do they seem overly anxious? Right? And I'm seeing some numbers come in. That's good. But I want you to think, because a lot of times we want to speed up, get it done. ROI. When do I get the money? When is the money going to come? Speed up, business, business, business. But the thing is, while you think you're handling your business, you're really not. You're handling the external business, but the external business is predicated on how you handle the internal business, and your qualitative state will dictate the quantitative state.
mhm.
And if I'm saying a lot of terms or long, big words, I apologize. But I am going to say, in simple layman's terms, is you're going to slow down so you can speed up.
So I like what you said. I'm going to give a little pushback, right?
Please.
I agree wholeheartedly. There are those who have the extended cheat days who make poor choices, right?
Yes.
There are those who have access who, have chosen the path of least resistance or short-term least resistance, right? It's going to catch up on the latter end. However, the folks that I'm talking to are trying to make the right decisions, right? I'll give you a quick story.
Please.
So I actually enjoy working out. I love working out. And over the last 2 years, I started with several trainers, right? I would start with the trainer, we would go hard for a couple of weeks, and then I wouldn't feel well and I'd have to stop,
Mm.
right? Recover, try again, not feel well, recover, try. Okay, what on earth is going on? Well, what does your trainer tell you when you on board? The most important thing is nutrition. Abs are made in the kitchen. Great. So I want you to start your day off with a bowl of oatmeal, 2 or 3 boiled egg whites. I want you to start with, a salad for lunch, maybe a little bit of fish for dinner, etc. Right? What if you're actually eating those things, but those things are not necessarily optimal for your body?
Here
What
we
do I
go.
mean by that?
Here we go. Pay attention, guys. We're about to go deep. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're going deep. So, I actually found out that I'm allergic to oats,
Mm.
right? I'm allergic to milk. I'm
Come
allergic to eggs. So I would start every day with foods that were pro inflammatory, meaning it would create an inflammatory response in my body. And so I would, eat my oats, eat my eggs, have my protein shake with milk. And I would go to the gym, working out. I like to lift, right? So I would lift, but my muscles were not recovering
on. Mm.
because of all the inflammation that was being caused by the quote healthy foods,
That's right.
right? I would continue my day with lunch, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, some codfish. I'm allergic to all of those.
Mm.
And by allergy, I mean, again, it creates a pro inflammatory response in my body. So I cannot have romaine lettuce, I cannot have tomatoes, onions, etc. So going out to eat with me is always fun, very interesting when I order. But more importantly, I'm really talking to the person who is doing the right thing, but may need to tweak those things that we don't often think about, right? Are the foods that I'm eating inflammatory for my body? Do I have a gluten sensitivity, right? Because if you're eating gluten, rice, which is somewhat healthy in moderation, barley, right? Kamut, things that we tend to gravitate to when we're doing a healthy lifestyle, are they inflammatory for your body? So really I'm looking on that level to say,
Girl,
okay, you know what? You're making the right choices, or what you think the right choices are. Let's just double check and make sure these are actually the right choices for you.
I love it. I love it. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
And this is a forward pacing question, forward thinking question.
Okay.
And I don't want to take away from, but this is blood panels, right? This is panel work.
Correct.
Are you going to have that opportunity and possibility at the event?
So not at the event.
Okay.
There'll be a lot to offer in one event
Okay.
on that day.
How can they get in contact with you for more information? And do you have access to that work?
So what we can do right now, we are going to have them consult with their primary care physician to see if they can order those panels for them. However, what I noticed is that most people don't even have those panels on their radar. They're not aware that it exists. They don't realize that the salad that they're eating can very well be their demise, right? Can very well be taking them off of the track of their goals, right? So, what we're doing is just educating them to say, hey, listen, talk to your doctor about XYZ and see if that makes a difference for you. So right now we're directing them to their primary care provider, and we're also going to be collaborating with another provider in our local area and we'll be building a network of providers across the nation that they can go to. Because I know we have some people who are in Texas, from Florida, from Georgia, from California, who are tuning in and who have signed up for the seminar. And right now we're not in all those states.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Listen, put in the chat what your main take. Oh, we got a question. How would the average person without medical knowledge know what's not working with their bodies? Okay, it looks like she may have frozen. So let me answer that. You want to be mindful, Keisha. I'm so glad that you asked that question. You want to be mindful. There's a thing called psychosomatic. Psychosomatic is the things that you think or the things that affect you emotionally and mentally, maybe spiritually, from trauma in the past or even present, affect your physical state now. Right. So you want to be mindful of what you're feeling and what your sensations are, and able to be able to do that, you have to be able to take time away. So we always are proponents of thinking time. Thinking time. As a CEO, you need to relax, step back, and think. But sometimes you also need to relax, step back, and just feel. Feel. Be aware. Self-awareness is huge. And then the attunement. And a lot of that can take place during meditation or as a result of meditation consistently. Eating the right food, meditating, sleeping, and exercise are 4 components that will let you be more informed and more in tune with your body. That's my response. Is Dr. Flowers back?
Hi, yes, I'm
Dr.
here.
Flowers, yes, ma'am. So we have a question. We had a question. I gave her my rudimentary understanding. I don't know if you were able to hear me, but she
I did.
said, how would the average person without medical knowledge know what's not working with their bodies?
So interestingly enough, one of the things that I appreciate about what you said is really tuning in with your body, really taking time out to sit and spend time with yourself, right? To take at least 5 minutes to breathe and do a body check. Actually, I have a silly song with my daughter, but we do a song, right? Where we check in from head to toe. How do we feel that day? What's off? Before I actually did the blood work to find out what is wrong or what was bothering my body, I ate something, gave myself a few minutes and saw how I felt, right? Because although all of those foods I listed are pro-inflammatory foods, they affected a different part of my body than the other food that was pro-inflammatory, right? Some affected my hands. Strangest thing, right? Other things gave me a headache. Other things made my knees hurt. A lot of us are walking around thinking we have arthritis, and we don't. We're probably just eating the wrong thing, eating
Come
things that are
on.
inflammatory,
Come on.
right? So really take time to tune into your body. Now, the next part is going to be difficult. A lot of our providers don't necessarily, we're not trained. Let me say it that way. We're not necessarily trained to listen to the person who's saying my body feels this way when I eat or do this, right? So when I went to my doctor and I said, listen, every time I eat such and such, my knees hurt. It's the weirdest thing, right? As a provider, mind you, I'm saying this. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, it's probably the early onset of arthritis, which is what we're programmed to say, right? That's what we're taught, right? Unless you take the additional step of taking a functional medicine and integrative medicine course, right, which is where you find a lot of what I'm teaching in the functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine space, right? So take time out to listen to your body, write down what you're feeling, right? And as much as we doctors do not like Dr. Google, you can start there, right?
Yes.
As a starting point, right? But don't hinge on it because it'll tell you if you eat that broccoli, you're gonna die. Don't do that.
It'll take you from one thing to the next to the next. I
Right.
love what you said, and that attunement piece, right? I want to bring it back to leadership leverage. Leadership leverage is knowing yourself. The main component to leadership as well as brand development is self-awareness.
Right.
And if you're checked out or you're not present, if you're not mindful, then you're not self-aware.
Right.
And if you're not self-aware, you don't know what's going on inside of you, and you can't. You're going to know what's going on outside of you to the amount and the same proportion that you know what's going on inside of you.
Correct.
If you're missing a lot going on inside of you, you're missing a lot going on outside of you. So it's again back to the adage that I said before and that I keep returning to, where less is actually more.
Right. And I'll add to that, there's a static, right? You know the old radios, they used to have static. There's a
Yes.
static that's created when your internal environment is not right, that really inhibits you from hearing what's going on in your external environment, because your body is trying to speak to you. The body does speak. It's trying to speak. So when you're not listening, it's going to give you the tummy aches, the headaches, the joint pain, until you tune in. And when you're walking around constantly in pain of one type or another, right? Nauseous, dizzy, etc., blood sugar too high, blood sugar too low, you can't really hear what's going on effectively on the outside of yourself. So you really got to tune in, check in, and like you said, tune up and put the right things in, right? Do we need
That's
premium
it.
fuel, regular, unleaded, you know?
We talked about harmony, we talked about orchestration, we're speaking to static, we talked about being mindful, performance. One of the main things that top performers always do that I've found in my study of leaders and high performers inside or outside of organizations in sports and athletics, I'm just a student of performance and human behavior,
Right.
is they spend that quiet time. Whether they call it thinking time, whether meditation, Zen, whatever it may be. Listen, listen. Don't tune out. A lot of times we tune things out because of all the advertising and all of the marketing. Don't tune out. Take quiet time and tune in and listen. Dr. Flowers just said your body speaks to you. Is it a harmonious note? Is it a harmonious performance, or is it static? And I just want to thank you, Dr. Flowers, because this it's always seems to be very, very enlightening, very impactful on a whole nother level. Right. So if you guys enjoyed this, you do not want to miss this HBCU event at Keene University. Mr. B, put that information back up so they can know where to check in and where to come see this live in person, right? Because I will be there and we will be discussing how to create harmony, the holistic business, how to do the holistic business plan, check in so you don't check out, get your culture right, your people right, your revenue right. And I believe that it would call for as well, just the power of this information. I think we should probably do another one or two, maybe before the event. So if that would be okay with you, I think we'd like to bring you back on, because this is a serious state. It's a serious situation, right? And we're talking about harmony. We're talking about optimal performance. We're talking about tuning into your body and putting years on your life. And we talk about adding zeros to your bank account all the time. What about adding years to your life so you can enjoy those zeros in your bank account?
Absolutely.
And I always say, in order for you to add a zero to your bank account, you have to add a zero to you first. Right? So how are you going to add a zero to your bank account if you don't add a zero to yourself?
Absolutely.
Let's put some deposits, some healthy, positive deposits in both accounts, your physical account and your business account. Check into this event. Check into this event. Dr. Rhoda, I have a request.
Okay.
I have a request if it's not too much and it's not too long.
Let's hear it.
What is the song?
What is the song?
What is the song? You said you and your daughter do a song.
We do a song.
Yeah, what is the song? Would you like to hear, guys? I'm getting pinged on the phone. What's the song? You gleaned over that real quick.
I do a clean version.
What's the
She
song?
she's in the background. She's like, "Don't do it."
Don't do it. No, she can come on and do the song. They want to know the song.
Do you want to come on and do a song with me?
No.
I'll give them the edited version. Okay. Okay.
Don't do it either way.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it for the audience. Okay.
Let's hear it. They want to hear the song. Make her
All
big,
right.
Mrs. B. Bring her up. Bring her up so she can do the song. Take us out of here with the song. Let's grow. This has been another edition of the Breakfast with the Brand. You guys are going to get the song, do the song with yourself so you can get your body right. Good night's rest, good appetite. Let's grow. We'll see you next week on the Breakfast with the Brand. Bring her up. Let's grow.
Oh boy. No, we're gonna do a song. Okay. All right. So it's a head to toe check, right? So we say, "How's your head and how's your shoulders? How's your tummy? How's your tushy? How's your head and how's your ears and how's your nose and how's your toes?" So we just go through the entire body, right? So we want to see, how's your head? How's your shoulders? Are you feeling nice and loose, right? We do a little wiggly dance. We check in with the shoulders. We wiggle the fingers. How's your knees? We check in with the knees. How's the tummy? And it really started because she was exhibiting symptoms of some gluten sensitivity. So it was a constant tummy ache. So we wanted to check in to see, how's your tummy, right? But she didn't like when I just asked, how's your tummy, right? Because it's a sensitive topic and kids don't necessarily like to admit when they're in pain. So we made a song out of it. How's your head? How's your shoulders? How's your tummy, right? And the tummy has another end, so then it becomes, how's your tushy, right? So that's a song that my daughter and I do. She's 8 right now. We came up with the song when she was about 6. So 6 or 7. So just for perspective, it's for little kids. But definitely the adults can use it and check in with their body.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Rhoda, for that. It's
Only for you, Sean.
it's a beautiful song. And apologize to your daughter for me. I just heard something. So as an adult, as an entrepreneur, you're always checking your bank account.
Always.
You're always checking your bank account. You're always checking your email. You're always checking Facebook. You're always checking externally, but you never check
That's right.
in. Stop checking out and check in. And if you check in correctly, maybe some things that you check on outside of you will get better. That's what we're talking about. Not being perfect. We're talking about getting better physically, better performance. This is the season for it. We're moving into 2023, a whole new situation. This is an opportunity for you to check in with your head, your shoulders, and everything else. Right. This has been another edition of The Breakfast with the Brand. Thank you so much, Dr. Flowers. We're going to bring you back on next year before the event because I think it's just so important, so important. I'm interested to see what you do in the marketplace. I can't wait. I'm fully 1,000% with you in alignment when it comes to this move to help our people become better minded, better performing, and more effective. Right. They can put some zeros in their bank account and also put some years to their life. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the work that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let's grow.
No.